So I want to welcome all of our students today and our special guest, Nadia. Nadia works as a procurement specialist for SupplyPro Inc. And previously she was working for Hyundai Translead. Nadia, you came to SDSU as an international student, is that correct? Yeah, so
That's
you're
correct.
from the area.
um, well,
Yeah.
first, I wanted to say thank you, Greg, for inviting me to talk about supply chain. And to start, yes, I started in SDSU as a international business major, which transferred later on to my supply chain career. Um, in Should I talk more about SDSU,
So
how I
why don't we
started, what I
talk
learned
about
there?
supply chain and we'll circle back to SDSU. So
Okay.
what I'd like to hear is just a little bit about your experience in supply chain management. So procurement is working on one piece of the supply chain. Supply
Right.
chain involves many different parts.
Well, to summarize it, I have to say first that I think procurement is the first step in the supply chain, because in procurement, after engineering has designed all the parts, all the products, and everybody knows how the product that will go on the market will look, procurement goes ahead and establishes relationships with suppliers, um, gets the sourcing for parts, and gets the best prices, gets the best service, um, makes contracts, signs NDAs. And all of that is important because you want to have good partners to work with you. Um, so after that, you get your logistics, your warehousing, your production teams, and but without procurement, you don't have parts, you don't have anything to build. So manufacturing uh, is not possible without procurement. And I think procurement is not a very popular um, career, but hopefully people start getting more interested, because in the current crisis of supply chain, it's crucial for companies to be able to get the best service, the best pricing, the best lead times, and procurement agents are the ones who will do that.
Well, with that said, as we're trying to encourage students to pursue, what do you enjoy most about your job?
Oh, I have to say that um, supplier management is my favorite aspect of the job, because the interesting part about procurement is that you don't only have um, the skills that are, the technical skills like Excel and softwares and analytical skills. You also have to have people skills and good communication skills, because you get to communicate with suppliers, you get to negotiate, and this is, your technical skills are probably 50% of what you need to be an expert at, but um, establishing relationships and getting those long-term relationships for the company is what will really make the organization successful.
And you speak multiple languages, including Spanish. How did
Correct.
Spanish help you out when you were at Hyundai Translead?
Well, I have to tell you that Spanish, I learned Spanish in SDSU. I studied for about 3 years, and I think I've become proficient in Spanish, and that has helped me tremendously in my career, because Hyundai Translead, we know that their headquarters are here in San Diego, but their plants are in Mexico. They have two plants there. So most of their workers, and those are thousands of people who work in Mexico, um, you have to communicate with them because production is there. And I spoke probably 50-60% of the time in Spanish. I'm not a native Spanish speaker, so uh, it was very beneficial to learn Spanish, and that was actually part of my major. And I would encourage strongly if students are able to learn another language, uh, Spanish or Mandarin, or whatever you're able to, even Portuguese. I think it's very beneficial because that will just open so many doors and opportunities for you, especially also knowing the culture of the other country. That will really relieve a lot of tension in negotiation, understanding how the other company and culture works will make business a lot more smoother.
How many other team members at Honda Translate spoke Spanish?
In procurement, I would say maybe we were a team of 10 people. Just in San Diego. In Mexico, they also had another team of about 15 people.
Mhm.
So in San Diego, I would say about 3 or 4 people only.
So 3 or 4 out of 10. So that probably made you pretty valuable being the
Oh,
negotiator
yes.
in
Yes,
your
it
conversation.
was, to be honest, it was a curse and a blessing because everybody came to me for help. Can you translate this? Can you explain this to this person? Because, language barriers and it's just being here at the border, there are so many maquiladoras as they are called if the business is here, headquartered in the United States, and then the factories are in Mexico. Those are the types of businesses, and you need to know Spanish. You need to understand the culture that goes in the other country.
Yeah. I know your days are different, so you don't do the same
Mm-hmm.
thing every single day, but could you kind of walk us through what a typical day might look like for you?
Definitely. Overall, there are just the priorities of the days change every single day, but you start in the morning with releasing reports. Those reports come from the ERP systems, which are, for example, SAP or Oracle, or there are so many.
Mhm.
Hyundai used SAP, but for example, in SupplyPro, where they make their own ERP software, it's called SSIS, which means Supply System Intelligent Software. And so you download your reports, which are um, open order reports, open purchase requisitions, shortage reports. And if you need more analysis, you can download other ones as well. But what you do is you get those reports and you start dissecting them, manipulating them to see, the first priority in procurement is to bring your material on time. So with the shortage report, you can see, which material you have to get communication going with your suppliers and expedite, or see what the issue is, so you can start talking to your production or engineering, whatever the issue might be. But that's how you start your morning, with analysis. Another big part of the job is, of course, placing orders, which will include um, sourcing your material, talking to suppliers, forecasting. Forecasting is a huge part of procurement. And I'm sure that people will ask what kind of softwares, what kind of tools you use for forecasting. But all I'll say is know Excel very well. You have to be just proficient. I can't tell that I'm an expert. I'm not an Excel wizard, but you have YouTube. you have you have Google. You can be an expert at all levels. Um, so, um, you know, another big part of my daily job is collaborating with engineers, because especially right now in the times of supply chain crisis from the pandemic, technology changes so fast. And even before that, technology was changing, designs are changing, you know, um, customers want always something new. They want to improve whatever they had before. So you're constantly working with engineers, you're sourcing new parts, you're designing something new, and without procurement, they can't get those parts in.
Since you were talking to different sellers,
Mhm.
are you also involved in negotiation and even contracts?
Oh, absolutely. Negotiations happen on daily basis, and it's not, just once a quarter or once a year when you're writing the contract. There are multiple times when throughout the time issues come up and you have to modify or make new agreements on certain issues. So you're negotiating all the time. And to be honest, I didn't feel prepared to negotiate, but when you know your product, you know your material, you know your supplier, you have established this communication, you know the people who you're working with, so you know how to talk to them. But
Mhm.
what really helps is I recommend that everybody takes a negotiation class. That will just clear so many aspects of negotiations for you. And I know that SDSU offers classes too, but even if you haven't had the chance to register for a class, even outside of SDSU, you can find so many resources and learn about negotiation. But yes, procurement has to be part of contracting, and I have spent a lot of time writing and editing contracts with suppliers.
Okay. So you got to have strong writing and articulation skills, it sounds like. And it sounds like for the negotiation side, better relationships with the supplier means better negotiating positions. So your ability to establish relationships is pretty crucial.
Absolutely. Relationships, as I mentioned, I think it's about 50% of the job. When you have good relationships with your supplier, they're willing to help more, to accommodate you more. Whenever a crisis comes, they're the first ones who will extend their hand and say, "Hey, we know that there is a shortage of this part, but we can bring this kind of substitute and make it easy for you." And they definitely they become a partner and they become part of your company. So it's very important.
What are the main differences between your job now at SupplyPro Inc. versus when you were working at Hyundai Translate?
Well, with both companies, I've had the same title. It's, procurement specialist. But the two companies are so different because of the company culture, the company size, the product that we make. Hyundai, uh, giant international company with thousands of coworkers, um, you know, multiple, it's multicultural. Um, and for example, even when you just look at their plans, they have two plans. The assembly line is something like, I don't know, 1 or 2 miles. It's just a giant of a company. And then you compare it to Supply Pro, where it's a relatively smaller company, local. Um, you your assembly line is probably 20 feet, very modest, but that's also because the product is much smaller. However, both companies have a very valuable product that they manufacture, and they work with very big players in the economy. For example, Hyundai, they work with Amazon, with Walmart. They make well. Maybe I didn't even specify what Hyundai makes. I should mention this right now. Hyundai is not only a car manufacturer. Here in the U.S., they also make trailers. So that's what I made for them. I was the aluminum commodity buyer.
Mhm.
So um, so in Hyundai, since it's a bigger company, I had a team of 3 people. Right when I started, I was placed in a team with my manager, and then later on, maybe a year later, they handed the team to me. So I was the lead in the team, and the job was more of a supplier manager, uh, managing the relationships, managing the quality of the material. Where in SupplyPro, you're more of a sourcing specialist. You're finding the best prices. You're finding new suppliers. More of a negotiation, because it's a smaller company and you don't have as much buying power as Hyundai. So at Hyundai, I had, the doors were open for me everywhere. Wherever I went, people wanted to do business with Hyundai. So I could go and, just demand my requirements and they can say yes or no. But in SupplyPro, I have to go and really, try uh, to get the help needed. Um, but overall, it's with the pandemic, procurement hasn't been easier or more difficult in any of the companies because um, the shortages are global in every industry. So you get to experience uh, very different organizations. Um, it all depends on the product that you're making, and the difficulties are different uh, with every company.
On the positive side, for our students, it sounds like the position is very in demand, and that's always a
Yes.
great meeting in.
Yes, definitely.
With that said, if you were to hire one of our students onto our team, what were the things that you'd be looking for the most, whether it's technical skills or soft skills?
The first, it's not even a skill. I think the most important, valuable thing that anybody could offer is their attitude to grow, attitude to learn, to be flexible, um, to want to give their best at work. Because everything else you could learn at the job. You could take additional classes. You can get all these technical skills. Those are not, um, make it or break it aspects. I think, even if somebody comes to me knowing Excel and SAP and every software that exists, and but they are not willing uh, to participate and to just do their best, or if they're slacking and they're waiting for their manager to navigate them the whole time and to tell them do this and then do that, it's not a good team player. You have to be there for the team. And
It's really interesting because we've had three other speakers on different topics. Management consulting, corporate finance, and data analytics. And all three of them also mentioned attitude as being one of the most important things that they would suggest students align with, in order to be hired.
absolutely. We're all people. We all make mistakes, and nobody knows everything. Um, we're all, accuracy and technical skills are important, but um, all of that is something that you can perfect over time. So, of course, the basis, you need to have your education, and most of you with a master's degree, MBA, you're just ahead of the game in front of everyone. And if you get to network even more while you're in school, you will learn so much, and all of that is valuable. But you need to be willing to be there for the job.
Mm-hmm. And I still remember chatting with you when you were still a student,
Mm-hmm.
and you were looking to get a internship at SDG&E at
Mm-hmm.
that time. At what point did you decide that supply chain or procurement was the route that you wanted to pursue?
I think that's a funny story because originally I'm from Bulgaria. So when I came to the United States for college, um, immediately the first thing that I saw was Amazon. Oh my God, they deliver things straight to your door. How do they do that? There is no such thing in Bulgaria. Um, so I was really fascinated by that, and I wanted to learn more. And with time, I got to learn more about supply chain, and I studied international business. And after, you know, learning more about it, I wanted also to have my own supply chain company. I wanted to have a logistics company. I wanted to improve logistics in Bulgaria. I want to have a warehouse. Um, so this is, um, it's just, it has to come from your heart. You can't just say, okay, this is in demand, let's go for it. Because at some point, um, you want, uh, you're not, that's not going to be what your heart calls for, and you will not be successful. Um, so it's important. Success is really driven by what you really desire to do.
Mhm.
And yeah, go ahead.
Oh, no, go, I don't want to cut you off.
um, so honestly, one of the things that I should have done in SDSU was look for more supply chain internships and opportunities, which I hope that students nowadays pursue immediately what they want to do. I got
Mhm.
more administrative jobs, which also helped, but yeah, it's very valuable if you can start earlier on. Uh, but the way I got my first job is in supply chain. Actually, it's funny because I was applying for so many jobs after in my last semester, and I was, uh, a little discouraged at some point because since I didn't have any experience in supply chain, it was very difficult to actually get interviews and get started. So one of my mentors told me, I have contacts with recruiters. Those headhunters, they have contacts. They will find you interviews. So that's what I did. And even the headhunters were not very positive that I'll be able to land the job. Um, and when I saw the opportunity with Hyundai, I thought, I don't have the experience, but I would love to get my foot in the door, and then later I can transfer to procurement. So I got the interview. I went there, and while I was interviewing, the the HR person asked, "So, what do you want to do with your career?" And when I told him that, I'm applying for this administrative job, but I want to be in supply chain, he asked me, "So, why are you applying for this job?" And I said, exactly that, because I really want to work here, but I want to get my foot in the door first. And he just looked at me shocked and said, okay, and just flipped the page and said, let's do a supply chain procurement interview. Right then and there, your life changes. You get to have the job that you really want. And so my advice is, don't think that because you don't have the experience, you don't have the expertise, that you shouldn't pursue a job. It's the opposite. If you have um, this experience and expertise, you should be looking for something higher than that. And just don't be afraid. People will give you chances. Um, the doors will be open. So I think as long as you show the attitude, you have your degree behind your back, so that will support you there. um, show that you're willing to learn, that you're expanding your skills. For example, I didn't have any SAP knowledge. So what I did to help myself a little bit, I went and got an online course. It was just an overview, something, very light, just to explain what SAP is all about. So when they saw this on my resume, they said, "Oh, this person really wants to learn, wants to, she's proactive. She wants to uh, become, she's serious about this profession. So they see those little things.
Mhm.
They see that you're trying, especially when you're new in the career. So that's what really helps. Um, but when you're new in a career, I think what mostly is needed is your analytical skills, your ability to handle stress, and just learn. That's all.
Awesome. That's really great advice. I give the same advice to our students that ask, if I don't have a certain skill, how can I
Mm-hmm.
get a certain position? And most of those technical skills can be taught on the
Yes.
job. And you can get started on it by doing the self-teaching. Go to the
Right.
library, get a book, go to Barnes and Nobles, buy a book, YouTube, Google. You took a class. Do the things that show them that you're willing to
Mm-hmm.
learn. They'll get you the rest of the way. Speaking of which, if you think back to those first few days,
Mm-hmm.
starting in procurement without previous experience, how was your learning curve?
Oh, they just threw me in there. They said, "This is
Mhm.
your email." I already had 500 emails on my first day. Um, so you don't know what's going on around you. So what you have to do is just uh, start talking to people, start learning, uh, ask questions. I was asking questions probably every 5 minutes in the first month, not the first month, first 6 months. um, you know you just have to make it happen. You have to take ownership of your work. um, you know on my first day, my manager came and said, this list here of these thousands of parts is yours. They're yours to manage now. Whatever happens, it's your fault. and,
No pressure.
and yeah, and that was enough for me. And I just said, okay. And whatever email I saw that stated this is, aluminum part, I went ahead and started researching. You just have to be resourceful. Don't worry if you make mistakes. There are people in the company that if they see a mistake, they will correct you, no problem. So as long as you're resourceful, you're a creative problem solver, this is what will really make you successful.
What does your career path look like? What's your next steps?
Next steps, it's difficult to predict what the future will be like in supply chain currently with the pandemic. Um, and I'm not saying that I'll lose my job or anything like that. The opposite. I think a lot of opportunities are coming along, um, and with the technology changes so rapidly every single day, and sources are changing as well. China currently looks very unreliable, um, and hopefully, we start finding more sources here in the U.S. Locally or in Europe. But it just changes very quickly. So I keep improving my skills and um, it, keeping an eye on what's new. For example, everybody currently is talking about AI in supply chain. How machine learning will help us um, to um, uh, to navigate what's coming in the future. How will we're going to make transactions and transportation more efficient and um, more traceable. So that's actually one of the reasons I currently, maybe it was last week or two weeks ago, I got a blockchain certificate because I am trying to learn exactly that. Um, what's new with IA? How is IA going to help supply chain? what are the new tools that are coming up, the new skills that are going to be in demand. And I hope that students are learning about that as well, because um, there is that is going to be the future. Traceability is going to be in huge demand. So this is what I am trying to learn currently. Hopefully soon I can go back to school and get my master's degree as well, and just keep growing, keep improving.
A few years ago, our MBA consulting program did a automation project with the supply chain team at Qualcomm. So, and then we had a few other AI projects as well. So
Hmm.
definitely agree that it is a very hot
Yes.
topic trend in the supply chain world. Stepping back a little bit, I remember
Hmm.
meeting you actually at an Aztec Mentor Program
Hmm.
event. Are you still in contact with mentors from that event? And do you
Yes.
currently have a mentor at a Supply Pro or anywhere else that is helping you through your current career transitions?
Definitely, I still keep contact with my supply chain. Well, he is in logistics. I keep contact with him, and we update each other, and message from time to time. Hey, is it really true that there is a crisis with drivers in the U.S.? What do you think about that? And he would send me resources to read. So that has been very valuable to me. The best advice that I've got were from my mentors, and they have really helped me excel in my career, because even just getting just a general career advice makes a big difference. You know, advice like get additional classes, or you know uh, network more. You know, those you would think that this is something obvious, but it's not. You really have to put the effort and get more inside information and expert information from somebody who has already gone through it. And I think having a mentor behind you will really, really help you along.
So all of our students, they should get mentors in the fields that they wish to practice in, right?
I agree, and honestly, even if the mentor is not in the same field, somebody who you think is a valuable person to know, because even if it's just in the company where you really want to be, and they're not in the field, they can still uh, help you inside the company. They can help you get opportunities. They can help you introduce you to people. Um, and just learning about an industry doesn't have to be in supply chain or in accounting. uh, just learn about the industry.
What are things should our students be doing outside of the classroom to help prepare them for jobs when they graduate?
uh, as I said, I think and that's an advice that I've got from my mentor as well. Network. Just keep introducing yourself to people. um, Learn about companies. I really recommend that you spend time on the internet, research, go on YouTube, follow a channel for supply chain. There are so many. You will never run out of information. Researching is staying current with all the news, the politics, the technology, new tools that are coming up every single day. Uh, as long as you stay current with the industry or with the career that you want to pursue, this is the most important. What else?
Well, you
Just keep.
recently got, oh, go ahead. I was going to say you recently got a certificate in blockchain and you're a
Yeah.
continuous learner.
Yeah.
I'm assuming that's a trend that you're hot on. How do you see blockchain helping you?
Uh, you know, I got very interested in blockchain after an incident that we had um, in my job. We got scammed by a Chinese supplier. They looked completely real. They had their website, they had their service representative. Uh, Everything looked like a normal person. It looked like a legitimate business. But
Mhm.
after you send the money, communication stops. You never receive your material, and it was just very frustrating because you send them thousands of dollars and then you just lost the money, you never got your material. So you know I thought, how come there is no way to find these people now? How come the police can help you, FBI can help you? um, what's how is this going to continue in the future? Are we going to keep getting scammed by Chinese suppliers? So I started researching, what software, what kind of tool is there to help us to track, to get verified suppliers. And blockchain is actually what gives you this peace of mind, because everything in blockchain is recorded. You can't erase information there.
Traceability.
Yes, the traceability is just, and I think this is what will be the future.
Yeah, and to be fair, we don't really probably know that those are really Chinese suppliers, do we? They could have been anywhere in the world. They were
Yeah,
affiliated.
yeah. Oh, yeah. It doesn't have to be, of course, it doesn't have to be just Chinese suppliers. But in this situation, it was just strange because, every supplier had run out of product, and then there is just this one company with a little bit of stock, and we think, okay, let's go and buy this before somebody else snatches it, and
Opportunity, right?
it's gone.
Well, I want to turn to our students, but before I open the door up for their questions, what is the last piece of advice that you would like to share with them? Anything off the top of your head?
Anything, just keep networking, keep learning. Um, I don't think there is a secret to success. Um, everything depends on the situation, but don't be afraid to go and ask for opportunities. Um, that's just uh, even if you don't have anything on your resume, I think you should always ask.
That's great advice. Asking questions is really a key to success in life. So you said there's no real keys. That was one of them right there. Don't be afraid to ask.
Yeah.
Um, when we met, I remember just like most of our students, you were a little bit unsure about things, but you've grown into a much more confident professional. What do you attribute that confidence growth to?
Oh, I think I'm still a shy person. I'm still an introvert. But when you get more exposed to uh, the career itself, or you meet people, you learn from them. Don't forget to pick somebody in the company and just say, those people are the ones with the expertise that I want to uh, emulate, basically to learn from them, to become like them. That's what has helped me become more confident. And I just sit there and um, and I just, like a sponge, you go and you just stick yourself to them. And the other thing is, of course, you're never going to know everything, but you have to find resources for yourself to help you become more confident in what you're saying, and uh, in the decisions that you make.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing all of that and answering my questions. For our students who are in attendance today, feel free to unmute yourself if you'd like to ask a question. Stephen, it looks like you've got a question.
I've got a couple of questions.
Okay.
Hi, Nadia.
Hi, Stephen.
My first question was, let's say there's you have multiple suppliers, they're providing similar goods, the price is even fairly similar. What criteria do you use in that situation to determine which supplier you go with?
You know, depending what your material is, if it's a material that you will, you know, if it's something that, for example, will get damaged in transportation, maybe you want to find somebody who is closer to your facility, because transportation also is very expensive. And currently, I'm not sure if you have found any information out there, but a container that last year cost maybe $2,000 now is $20,000. So you really need to take into consideration your cost. But cost price of the material is not the most important thing. As I said, your collaboration with your suppliers is probably the most important, because they will make things happen for you. And if you have, you know, let's say that the price is similar and service is similar, I would suggest starting a relationship with both. You don't have to choose only one. It's very good to have diversity in your choice, because I've had situations where one supplier runs into issues, say their equipment fails, and they can't send you parts for a long time, but your production keeps running. You can't stop your lines. You know, you're going to have a dead time. So you go and you purchase it from the other supplier. You always should have a backup. Don't you know, don't choose just one.
Could you see a scenario where you're actually buying from both at the same time, where you just split the
Oh,
order,
yeah.
one and the other?
I do that. I definitely split orders, because, for example, for high runners, parts that are, you know, you buy a lot, you can't rely only on one supplier, because if something happens, then you're done. And you know, it's not a pretty number when you have to backcharge your suppliers for the dead time that your people sat and did nothing for a day or two. So yeah, there have been a lot of situations where that happens.
Is cost and you know, knowing your suppliers, is that the same for location? Like, let's say you've got a plant in Vietnam or a plant in India. They're both sufficiently far away. So is the cost still the main concern there, assuming you could get a product that you know is going to be you know, similar in price and quality as well?
Well, cost is definitely not the most important. I think the history of the companies is even more important. You need to find a reliable source. That's probably a lot more important than cost, because you can always negotiate your cost. You can always find better ways to produce a part, or to modify the part so you can meet your cost. But reliability is a lot more important than that.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course, no problem.
Great questions. Other Stephen.
Hi, Nadia. Let me turn on my video. Hello. Hello. Just had a question about, so you mentioned certificates. Are there any other supply chain related certificates that you would recommend people getting, maybe that either you have or coworkers in the supply chain field have that you would recommend besides for, of course, the degree?
I definitely will recommend you certificates. The one that I have and I find very valuable in, especially in manufacturing, is Lean Six Sigma. I am certified in Green Belt, and that will just help you tremendously because it, you know, you will learn about processes and improving and waste management. So that will actually, I think it's the most valuable certificate that you can get for supply chain and especially in manufacturing. There are many other supply chain certificates. You can get one from Apex. You can also, currently actually I'm doing a project management certification. So that's also for, I think for any industry, project management is valuable to have because it, you know, that will really enhance your organization skills. But you can get a supply chain certificates anywhere in any kind of area. Warehousing is also good to understand. But every business has different KPIs. So you need to kind of gauge it off of the business and see, you know, if you're doing manufacturing, go with that. If you're doing IT, maybe, you know, project management would be more valuable and more other IT solutions like blockchain would be perfect.
Okay, thank you. And then second part of my question was, are there any professional associations that you are part of or that you would recommend joining? Maybe you've heard good things about them related to supply chain?
I would definitely recommend joining the supply chain, what is it called? Supply Chain Association. What is the, Greg, do you remember what's the full name of it?
I do not, but I can try to look it up for you while we're
what
chatting.
is it? Supply chain. Let me see. Embarrassing. Hold on.
Is it
Supply
local or
chain.
national?
Yeah, well, it's I think it's all over the country, but oh gosh, CSCMP, Supply Chain Council, Professional Management Professionals, but it abbreviation is CSCMP. So with this association, for example, one of my mentors took me there to networking events. I have toured plants, you know, here, local companies with him. And you get to learn, you get to see the manufacturing process, you see what they do exactly in the company. There are so many conferences that you can attend and learn about current issues in supply chain there. So they have also networking events there as well. But it's very valuable. And if you can join Apex as well, those are a little bit pricey association fees, but I think it's worth it. As a student, you get very good discounts. It's almost free. Later on, though, after you graduate, those become a little heavier fees.
So
Thank you
Stephen,
very much.
Stephen, I put that link in the chat for you. It's the Council of Supply Chain Management Professionals.
Yes, thank you, Greg.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
All right. Do we have any other questions? Yogesh, Kyle, Yiyam?
I don't have a question, but I would like to thank Nadya to be there today because I could relate to what she was saying. I could feel that whatever she was saying. I basically come from a background where I used to do business with my father. And as it gradually increased, I was the one who was taking care of supply chain and operations for those business. And I could feel when you said you need to learn more things, supply chain are changing. So I came to US to study about data analytics part of supply chain, because when I was doing my own business, there was a lot of data flowing. I was taking care of operations, but learning how to use that data to manage my operations and everything was something which I couldn't do very well. I wanted to learn and I came to US to do that. One thing which very interesting I learned was about studying blockchain now for next coming at least 2 3 years. After 2 3 years, I'm going to start with learning about blockchain, because since I want to pursue myself into this field, I went to Greg for help, because I told him I am into supply chain, but I'm looking for a job where I can apply data analytics part into supply chains. And that is where he started helping me out. And with this session today, it's the most important session for me, because I've learned something that I have to do for next coming 2 3 years for myself. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. And honestly, a good job that you have recognized the need of data management, because um, I want to emphasize that information is the most valuable aspect, most valuable thing that you can have in your hands. It's not the data, it's the information, it's the analyzed data that you will make decisions off of. And if you know how to manipulate this data and turn it into examples and turn it into, you know, decision making patterns where you can find you know, trends, patterns, this is what really changes um, everything. You will really I think you will really benefit. Any company will benefit from that.
Appreciate that input, Yogesh. Nadia, should I put a link to any of your career center hiring openings to Yogesh? And
Yes.
any other questions before we conclude our talk today? Okay, well, we ran a little over our scheduled time. So Nadia, I really appreciate you giving our students a little bit extra time.
It was my pleasure.
Thank you so much. It really means a lot to have former students come back and talk about their careers and give our students a better perspective of what it's like to work, in this case, in supply chain management and as a procurement specialist. So thank you.
Well, I hope I have inspired somebody to pursue supply chain as a career. I promise you, it's very exciting and always changing and very dynamic. So you will never be bored. But if you have any questions, you can always find me on LinkedIn. Ask anything. If I have the answer, I'll help you. If not, I'll find out. But I love helping as well, and I have helped coworkers and friends get jobs in supply chain as well. Even though they're not in my company, I have helped them with resources and even helping them just practice their interviews and asking them the right questions for the interviews, where they can, you know, see what the other people ask them. So let me know.
Are you open to connecting with the current students?
Of course. We have to help each other.
If you'd like to be introduced to Nadia, you know, outside of this event today, send me an email and I'll do an introduction for you. All right, well, thanks again. And this will conclude today's career chat on supply chain management.
All right, thank you so much, everyone. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.